Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you today with Classic X-Men number 12. Now, before we dive into this issue, I want to say thank you to everyone that was patient. The whole household has got sick, and basically all of us, me, mom, baby, all of us kind of ended up in the hospital, and it was a nightmare. But we're home now, and we are on the mend. So thank you so much for bearing with us. And with that said, let's go ahead and dive into this book. And I apologize if I sound like death. So Classic X-Men. This is actually, there was a time in the 80s when Marvel kind of reprinted Claremont's run, which was cool because, you know, some of the books were starting to get up there in price, so you could at least read the stories. And what I liked about the Classic X-Men was the fact that in addition to getting the original story, which this is Uncanny X-Men 104, you would also get like a follow-up story. And I apologize for the coughs. Let's go ahead and dive into this. So this is Chris Claremont writing both. Dave Cockrum doing the original X-Men book. John Bolton doing the follow-up. Sam Granger doing the inks along with John Bolton. Bruce Patterson doing the lettering. Ken Lopez and Tom Orzanowski. Evelyn Stein and Glynis Oliver doing the colors, and here's everyone else that was working on the book. And then this was just a really cool edition of Magneto from, I think that's Arthur Adams, I think that's his signature, but gorgeous piece there. Now, X-Men 104, this was printed in January 1977. We've gone over 105, so we're kind of going back, and we actually did, because I picked up 105 and we did a copy of the original book, so this is kind of, I guess you would call it a reprint. But everyone's going to Muir Island, and here, this is one thing that I never realized. I have this original comic, but I didn't realize how important this is, because right off the bat, this is the first appearance of Muir Island. Everyone's going because they've received a distress call, and up to this point, everyone just thought that Moira McTaggart was, was a house cleaner and aide to Professor Xavier. No one has known about her mutant research. And they also talk about Jamie Madrox. So Jamie Madrox's first appearance, from what I see on Marvel's Wiki, it was Giant-Sized Fantastic Four. I think Giant-Sized Fantastic Four number something or other, I think. But this is his first appearance in a X-Men comic book. Now, there's also another big first appearance. We'll get into that in a second. But as you can see, everyone's trying to get to Muir Island. And I miss this era of the X-Men. Dave Cockrum and John Byrne, both of their times, they just knew how to draw action. And you can tell just from the color palette, the use of the lines and the inks, that this is very much, Kirby inspired. And that is how you do a splash page, folks. That is gorgeous. They're trying to rent this hoverboat to get to Muir Island, and just out of the blue, all the metal just gets destroyed. So you can tell from the cover that we know exactly who the X-Men are going up against. And again, another reason why this book is so important is because this is the first time that the new X-Men that Cockrum and Len Wein and Chris Claremont fleshed out go up against the Master of Magnetism. So from what I understand is, before this, Eric Lensher was turned into a child. And I know it wasn't an X-Men book, because I've been reading all these. I can't remember what book it is. If you guys can remember, let me know down in the comments. But yeah, he was turned into a baby and basically kept in a cell here on Muir Island after a bout in the Savage Land. If you guys can kind of help me work that out chronologically, let me know. But you can just tell the bitterness. And I like how he's reintroduced here just in silhouette. And all he's really doing is testing the new X-Men's abilities. He's like, I could destroy them, Eric, with ease. They'd never know what hit them. But I want them to know. I want this to be personal. I want it to hurt. Xavier, you pathetic, sanctimonious fool, clinging to mementos of the past as they were talisman to ward off evil. You can just kind of see the bitterness of what has happened to him. And as we get into Muir Island, I mean, look at that, the way they jump into attack. I mean, all hand drawn. I mean, this was 1977, folks. Gorgeous work. I mean, yes, graphic art has done a degree of excellency, but still here, just seeing this, I would take this any day. I mean, look at this. You know, Cockrum, Byrne, they had their own styles, but you could see how Jack Kirby just really influenced their work. All the Kirby crackles, the energy, just it was updated, but you could still see the homage to the king of comics that has inspired so many artists through the years. Now here, this is where we see Cyclops and Moira coming to Muir Island, and Cyclops is saying, you know, I don't really trust you now, Moira. He goes, I've been with the professor since the beginning, and this is the first I've heard of your mutant research center. I've seen secrecy before, lady, but this... And now, excuse the coughing, I'm sorry. Think about what Scott is saying here. And now how he just doesn't seem to care on Krakoa. Like, he doesn't care what, you know, I'm sure he doesn't know about Moira and her machinations on Krakoa, but all this secrecy, and Scott just seems to be okay with it with the Quiet Council. No. And then again, Moira here saying how she uses this place to help detain unstable, dangerous mutants so that maybe one day we can help them and rehabilitate them and send them back out into society. She goes, this has been my life's work. That's the Moira I know, not this bitter one that wants all certain mutants to remain dead, etc., so forth. And again, that's why I hate this new age Krakoa X-Men. In here, the first appearance of Jamie, and I like how he goes, Moira, what have you done? If you brought the X-Men here, you've murdered them. And so, of course, Jamie gives a backstory on how Eric the Red freed Magneto. The battle just goes, and I love how he's able to just, Magneto, that is able to just take out the new X-Men with ease. This is one of the first times you see how Lensher takes out, what's his name? Wolverine with ease because of his adamantium. Same thing where Peter's like, I'm no use to my teammates as Peter Rasputin, so I have to do what I can as Colossus. And Magneto's just like bumbling oaf. Did you think I was some novice to be taken so easily unawares? And just throws him like he's so much tissue. And it shows how this new era of X-Men that Cyclops has really done his best to train is doing everything in their power. But even Cyclops mentions, he goes, after Magneto was turned into a baby, me and Xavier never thought that we'd come up against him, so I never had a chance to train them against this level of baddie, because he never thought that they would see him again. And so again, that's sort of a bad on Scott. He should have trained them against him in case they ever came up against somebody, especially with at this time in history, Havoc and Lorna are prisoners of Eric the Red and doing his bidding. So, you know, she's kind of the mistress of magnetism, but, you know, comics. And so Cyclops actually tells the X-Men to flee. Because he says, we are out of our league here, folks. And I like how Wolverine says, Summers, you can justify this till the day you die, but it won't change the fact that you made us run. You turned the X-Men into cowards, bub. That's something the Wolverine will never forget. And again, this is where Logan's still kind of green and hot-headed, so he doesn't understand why Cyclops is making the snap judgments he is. And at this point, it reminds me of their second mission with Thunderbird, and Thunderbird dies, and how that tore Cyclops apart at his core, because that was one of the first X-Men under his command to die, and I think that's why he's a little shaken here. And as Magneto, reels in his victory and walks away, it says he leaves, never noticing as behind him a fine and private horror stirs and slowly comes awake. But that's a story for another time. And so Mutant X, so spoilers if you guys have never read any of Claremont's run, but if I'm not mistaken, Mutant X here, this is supposed to lead up to Proteus, which is Moira McTaggart's son. And then what I was getting at here is this is the first cameo appearance, and I think the biggest important part of this book is the first appearance of the Starjammers and Corsair. Because a while back we got the first appearance of the Shi'ar, but here this is where we finally get to see Christopher Summers, though that we don't know his name yet. And then as the book ends, it picks up here in New York where Xavier is visiting Jean Grey, and this is where we pick up on X-Men 105, which I'll link the review that we did there. So really cool stuff. Excellent book from 1977. And then as I was talking about, we get this addition to the comic. We're in France sometime later, and this is called A Fire in the Night. And Magneto's trying to sleep, and this is shortly after he's been revitalized by Eric the Red. And because he's been revitalized, he's not as old as he was, and his memories are just as fresh. So he's having, those, what do they call them? The PTSD flashbacks to Auschwitz when him and Magda escaped together. And I love the absence of the colors that they use. It just really adds the intensity here at the end of the war when German soldiers were trying to silence Holocaust victims. But Magneto's not having it and was able to take out one of the Nazis. And the story is basically him just struggling with these thoughts of how him and Magda escaped into the wilderness, survived, learned to cope with what happened to them, fall in love, and have their first child, Anya, I believe is her name. And they escape. What the hell is that place called? They first settle down in the Wundagore Mountains, somewhere close to Ukraine, I believe. And then they take off into the bigger cities so that Eric can try to get a place at university and get more money for his family. And he notices, as people try to cheapskate him, how his mutant powers begin to increase during this time period. And his house here comes on fire. He's able to save Magda. And she's like, did you do this? He's like, it's a miracle. I must have. And you can kind of see where they got the inspiration for X-Men Apocalypse, which was probably one of the best parts of that movie. Not the subject matter, but how they filmed it. But here, they try to say that Eric stole from his employees earlier in the day or whatever. And in doing so, his daughter Anya is burned alive. And at this point, Eric's powers fully come to fruition, and he kills everybody there. And he goes, "Come on, Anya, let's lay our daughter to rest." And she goes, you killed them. You killed them all. Because of them, our Anya is dead. They deserve no less. You threw lightning from your eyes. I have powers, Magda. They rescued us. They might have saved Anya. Instead, they avenged her. And she flees because she doesn't know what to make of what Eric has become. And even though this story is heart-wrenching and horrific, the way this book ends is actually, in a sense, shows what Claremont was trying to do with Magneto later down the line, where I can't remember if it was when I met him in person, or if it was a documentary where he said he was hoping by, I think it was X-Men 700 or something like that, that he wanted Charles Xavier to pass, and that Magneto would eventually lead the X-Men. And I think that's what he was working towards as he became the mentor of the New Mutants. So I don't know, but nonetheless, And look at that gorgeous artwork there. Very beautiful piece there on the back. I wish that modern comics still did stuff like this. But 104, excellent issue, guys. A lot of big introductions, great story, great artwork, just the way that traditional comics should be done. If you guys have enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and see if you can pick up a copy of the original 104 or this classic X-Men issue 12. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you can possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way we continue to upload content. You guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love to talk with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments below or our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.